When the technologically advanced Galactic Alliance discovers Earth still maintains an arsenal of primitive projectile weapons alongside modern energy weapons, they're baffled and concerned. But when an ancient enemy immune to energy weapons emerges from deep space, humanity's outdated approach proves to be the key to survival. Grand Inspector Zylvex's secondary breathing sacs constricted in barely concealed horror as they walked through the sprawling underground facility of Earth's primary military arsenal. Their crystalline sensory appendages trembled, struggling to process what they were witnessing. Row upon row of what could only be described as ancient death-dealing machinery stretched into the darkness. The sight of so much primitive technology in one place was almost physically painful to their highly evolved sensibilities. "And this is just one of 17 such facilities?" they asked, their universal translator struggling to convey the mix of disgust and disbelief in their harmonic tones. General Kaivana Frost, Earth's notorious retro commander, smiled, that insufferably knowing smile that seemed unique to humans. Her cybernetic eye glowed a soft blue as she ran her hand along the barrel of what appeared to be a railgun, the size of a small shuttle. 23 facilities now, actually, she corrected, clearly enjoying the way Zylvex's crystalline structure flickered in distress. "We commissioned 6 more last quarter. The Mark 7 kinetic accelerator platforms have proven quite cost-effective." "Cost-effective?" Zylvex's voice rose an octave, their translation matrix nearly shorting out.
You're manufacturing projectile weapons.
"Bullets, physical ammunition. Do you have any idea of the logistics nightmare this represents? The maintenance requirements alone must be roughly 1/8 the cost of maintaining an equivalent energy weapons platform." Frost interrupted smoothly. She tapped a holopad, bringing up a comparative analysis display. "Factor in the reduced power requirements, simplified training protocols, and enhanced reliability under electromagnetic interference conditions." She let the sentence hang meaningfully. Zylvex's sensory crystals pulsed rapidly as they scanned the data. But this is absurd. The Galactic Alliance standardized on energy-based weaponry centuries ago. The efficiency gains, the technological superiority, are impressive, certainly. Frost nodded. "We use energy weapons too, of course. But humanity has learned some hard lessons about putting all our eggs in one basket." She paused, noting Zylvex's confusion. "Sorry, old Earth saying. It means—" "I'm familiar with the idiom," Zylvex snapped. "What I'm struggling to understand is why an allegedly advanced species would deliberately maintain obsolete technology at such scale, unless—" Their crystals suddenly dimmed as a disturbing thought occurred to them. "Is this some sort of museum?" Frost's laugh echoed off the reinforced walls. "Hardly. Every weapon you see here is in active service. We run live fire exercises weekly. Would you like to observe one?" Before Zylvex could formulate a response, a deep rumble shook the facility. Frost checked her holopad and smiled. Perfect timing. Looks like the 47th Heavy Artillery Division is running qualification drills in Sector 7. Shall we? 20 minutes later, Zylvex stood in a shielded observation booth, watching in mute horror as human soldiers demonstrated the capabilities of their obsolete arsenal. Targets representing the latest Alliance battle platforms were systematically shredded by a bewildering array of kinetic weapons. "You see," Frost explained, as a hypersonic penetrator round-punched through an energy shield rated to stop capital ship weapons. "The problem with standardization is it creates predictability. When everyone uses the same defensive technology, everyone has the same vulnerabilities." Zylvex finished quietly, their crystals dulled with dawning comprehension. "But surely the resource investment required to maintain 2 parallel weapons technologies is considerable," Frost agreed. "But tell me, Inspector, what's the cost of defeat?" Zylvex watched as another target disintegrated under combined kinetic and energy weapon fire. They had come to Earth expecting to file a routine inspection report on a somewhat backward member of the Alliance. Instead, they were beginning to suspect they had dramatically underestimated humanity's tactical sophistication. "There's something else you should see," Frost said, leading them toward another section of the facility. "We've recently begun testing some interesting hybridization approaches. Tell me, Inspector, what do you know about electromagnetic pulse weapons? Zilvex's crystals flickered in alarm. They had a feeling this inspection was about to become even more disturbing. Lieutenant Commander Raven Stormweaver stood before the Alliance Strategic Council, her holographic presentation showing a series of anomalous sensor readings. The chamber's crystalline walls reflected the eerie patterns of what appeared to be ghost ships, vessels that somehow managed to slip through the Alliance's most sophisticated detection systems. As you can see, she gestured to the shifting patterns, these signatures don't match any known configuration of shield harmonics or energy emissions. It's almost as if what, Commander? Science Director Enix Thera's tentacles writhed with barely concealed impatience. As if they're not using energy at all, Stormweaver finished. At least, not in any way we understand. The council chamber erupted in dismissive murmurs. NX Thera's bioluminescent patches pulsed with derision. Preposterous. All advanced civilizations utilize energy-based technologies. It's the natural progression of technological evolution. Stormweaver's cybernetic hand clenched involuntarily. With all due respect, Director, that's exactly what concerns me. These vessels appear to operate on completely different principles. Our standard detection protocols are practically useless against them. Back on Earth, General Frost was already taking action. Deep within the secure archives of humanity's pre-Alliance military history, she had discovered something troubling. Ancient records spoke of encounters with similar phenomena, ships that seemed to defy conventional physics, immune to the weapons of their time. Cross-reference historical accounts with current anomalies, she commanded her AI assistant. Focus on pattern recognition across temporal gaps. The results were unsettling. The similarities were too precise to be coincidental. Whatever these ghost ships were, humanity had encountered their like before, long before they'd developed energy weapons. In her private command center, Frost initiated a classified protocol that had been decades in preparation. Activate Project Ancestral Echo, she ordered. Authorization Frost Omega 793. Across Earth's secret military installations, automated systems hummed to life. Sealed bunkers opened, revealing stockpiles of weapons that would have made Inspector Zilvex's crystals shatter in shock. But these weren't just primitive ballistic weapons, they were hybrids, combining ancient principles with modern innovations in ways the Alliance had never imagined. Meanwhile, Stormweaver continued her investigation, despite the Council's skepticism. Each new sensor reading confirmed her fears. The ghost ships were growing bolder, their appearances more frequent, yet the Alliance remained blind to the threat. Too convinced of their technological superiority to consider alternative. Your persistence is becoming tiresome, Commander, Anaxithara declared during yet another briefing. These anomalies clearly represent some form of sensor malfunction. Our systems are infallible. No system is infallible, Director, Stormweaver countered. That's exactly why Earth maintained. Oh, please, Nixthera interrupted, tentacles waving dismissively. Don't tell me you've been influenced by those human primitives and their obsession with outdated technology. But as the meeting adjourned, Stormweaver received an encrypted communication from General Frost. You're not wrong. Be ready. The old ways are about to become very relevant again. The warning signs were there for those willing to see them. In the void between stars, something ancient was stirring. Something that cared nothing for the Alliance's advanced energy weapons and sophisticated shields. Humanity had faced it before, in their distant past, and survived. Now they would have to teach their alien allies that sometimes progress means remembering what came before. Project Ancestral Echo wasn't just about maintaining old weapons. It was about preserving the wisdom of ages, the hard-learned lessons of countless battles fought with whatever tools came to hand. The ghost ships were coming, and when they arrived, the Alliance would learn why humans never forgot how to throw a punch, even after they learned to fire a laser. They called themselves the Quantum Null Fleet, though the name came too late to matter. The first real attack happened at the Proxima Defense Station, humanity's furthest outpost. The station's advanced energy shields flickered uselessly, as 3 ghost ships simply passed through them like they didn't exist. Fleet Admiral Thexlor's report to the Alliance Council was a masterpiece of understated horror. Energy weapons ineffective, 0 damage registered, station lost with all hands. No survivors. The council chamber descended into chaos. The quantum null ships had proven immune to every weapon in the Alliance's vaunted arsenal. Plasma beams passed through their hulls without effect. Particle accelerators might as well have been firing shadows. Even the latest quantum disruption cannons, pride of the Alliance fleet, produced nothing more than interesting light shows. Impossible. Science Director Nexthera's tentacles were practically tied in knots. No defense can be perfect. The energy requirements alone. They don't use energy. Commander Stormweaver interrupted, her voice cutting through the panic. At least, not as we understand it. That's what I've been trying to tell you. The emergency summit at Centauri Prime drew representatives from every Alliance world. The Grand Chamber, usually a showcase of advanced holographic displays and energy-based architecture, now felt oddly vulnerable. The mighty Alliance, with all its technological superiority, faced an enemy that made their weapons look like children's toys. Then General Frost stepped forward, her cybernetic eye glowing with an almost predatory gleam. Earth has a proposal. The Alliance leaders turned to her with desperate hope, but that hope quickly turned to confusion as she explained humanity's plan. Behind her, a hologram displayed what appeared to be primitive projectile weapons, albeit modified with modern materials and targeting systems. You can't be serious, one of the council members scoffed. Projectile weapons against an enemy that can phase through energy shields? Exactly, Frost smiled. They phase through energy. But last time I checked, you can't phase through a tungsten rod moving at relativistic speeds. The chamber erupted in argument. Commander Stormweaver stood by Frost's side, adding her voice to the defense of Earth's strategy. Their immunity to energy weapons is their greatest strength, she explained. But it might also be their greatest weakness. They've evolved or developed defenses against the most advanced weapons in the galaxy. But sometimes, the old ways still work. And you have proof this will be effective? Fleet Admiral Thexlor demanded. Frost's smile widened. We have better than proof. We have a demonstration ready. Project Ancestral Echo isn't just about weapons. It's about remembering that sometimes the simplest solution is the best solution. The Alliance had no choice. With the Quantum Null fleet advancing through their territory, immune to their best weapons, they had to try something, even if that something seemed, to their advanced sensibilities, like a step backward into barbarism. As the Council adjourned to observe Earth's demonstration, Science Director NX Thera approached General Frost. If this works, they said quietly, it will revolutionize our entire approach to warfare. No, Frost corrected. It will remind us that revolution sometimes means coming full circle. She checked her tactical display, where the first of Earth's hybrid fleet was moving into position. Now, let's show you why humanity never forgot how to throw rocks. Captain Phoenix Darkforge stood on the bridge of the ESS Mesopotamia, her hybrid warship holding position at the edge of the Arcturus defense line. Behind her, Alliance War Sage Cather's crystalline form shimmered with barely contained skepticism as he observed the unconventional weapons systems. Those are actual metal projectiles? Cather asked, gesturing at the massive railgun arrays visible through the viewport. Tungsten carbide rods with a depleted uranium core, Darkforge confirmed, her artificial fingers dancing over the tactical display. Plus a few special modifications we've been working on. Sometimes the old ways just need a little updating. The test target, a decommissioned Alliance cruiser, hung in space before them, its energy shields humming at full power. The same shields that had proven useless against the Quantum Null fleet. Beginning demonstration sequence, Darkforge announced. First, standard Alliance energy weapons. The Mesopotamia's plasma cannons fired, their beams splashing harmlessly against the target's shields. Cather nodded. This was exactly what they'd expected against high-level defensive systems. Now, conventional ballistic weapons. The ship shuddered as its main railgun fired. The hypersonic projectile crossed the space between ships in a fraction of a second. When it hit the energy shield, something unexpected happened. Nothing. The rod passed through the shield as if it wasn't there, then punched through the cruiser's hull like it was made of paper. Secondary explosions bloomed in the vacuum as the kinetic energy dispersed through the target's structure. Cather's crystalline body flashed in shock. How? Simple physics, Darkforge explained. Their phase technology, like your shields, is designed to deal with energy weapons. But a solid object moving at relativistic speed, that's just mass times acceleration. No energy signature to detect, no way to phase through. But the demonstration wasn't over. Darkforge gestured to her weapons officer. Show them the hybrid system. The next salvo combined principles both ancient and modern. Projectiles wreathed in electromagnetic fields that fooled phase-shifting technology. Shells that dispersed clouds of metallic particles, creating zones where energy weapons suddenly worked. Simple, physical solutions to problems the Alliance had thought required ever more complex energy-based approach. By the first light, Cather whispered as the target ship broke apart under the assault. All this time, we thought we had progressed beyond such primitive methods. Progress isn't always about moving forward, Darkforge said, watching the debris field expand. Sometimes it's about remembering what works. Humanity learned that lesson the hard way, more than within hours. The footage of the demonstration had been transmitted to every Alliance command center. Emergency production orders went out to convert existing facilities to manufacture hybrid weapons. Earth's primitive defense industries, maintained for centuries despite ridicule, suddenly became the most valuable resource in the galaxy. The conversion process will take time, Cathor reported to the assembled Alliance leadership. Time we may not have. Then it's a good thing we kept our factories, General Frost replied. Earth's production facilities are already at full capacity. The first shipments of hybrid weapons will reach Alliance forces within the week. As the Alliance commanders rushed to implement what they now called Operation Renaissance, Darkforge received new orders. The Mesopotamia would lead a task force of hybrid-armed ships against the next quantum null incursion. The real test was about to begin. Ironic, isn't it? She mused to Cathor, who had elected to remain aboard as an observer. Your people thought we were foolish for keeping these obsolete weapons in service. Now they might be the only thing standing between civilization and extinction. The Warsage's crystalline form pulsed with what might have been embarrassment. Perhaps, he admitted, we have something to learn about the wisdom of keeping one foot in the past while reaching for the future. Battle Commander Ash Shadowmend stood in the Combined Fleet's Strategic Command Center, surrounded by holographic displays, showing hundreds of ships moving into the largest military force ever assembled in Alliance history, filled the space around the Void Gate, where intelligence suggested the Quantum Null Fleet would emerge. Hybrid Fleet Divisions, report status, she commanded, her augmented voice carrying across all channels. Earth Division ready. Captain Darkforge's voice came through clear. All railgun batteries charged, kinetic penetrators low. Alliance Division 1, modifications complete. Came the crystalline tones of the converted ships. Still learning to aim these. Projectile weapon. Strategic Advisor Zena Starweaver's hologram materialized beside Shadowmend, her neural interfaces glowing as she processed combat. Remember, Alliance crews, don't think of them as primitive weapons. Think of them as tools that operate on different principles. The same way you'd use a knife when a laser won't. The Void Gate pulsed, its ancient structure beginning to resonate with otherworldly energies. Multiple contacts, the sensor officer announced. Quantum Null signatures confirmed. Count, 73, capital ship. They're not even trying to hide anymore, Shadowmend observed grimly. They think their phase technology makes them invulnerable. She allowed herself a small smile. Let's show them how wrong they are. Execute battle plan throwback. The human ships moved first, their hybrid weapons already having proven effective. Massive railguns charged with electromagnetic energy launched salvos of kinetic penetration. The projectiles, wrapped in field generators that fooled phase-shifting technology, struck true. 3 quantum null ships erupted in silent explosion. The enemy fleet seemed to hesitate, clearly not expecting resistance. Then they responded with their own exotic weapons, beams of null energy that could disintegrate normal. But the Alliance fleet was deploy chaff clouds. Starweaver ordered. Pattern ancient. Thousands of tiny projectiles burst in space, releasing clouds of specially treated metallic particles. The null energy beams hit these clouds and scattered, their coherence disrupted by the simple presence of properly aligned physical phase. This, Darkforge muttered, ordering her gunners to fire the next innovation. Projectiles that separated in flight, becoming swarms of smaller penetrators. The quantum null ships could phase through energy, but they couldn't phase through everything at once. The battle evolved into something unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. Alliance ships, their energy weapons useless directly, used them to superheat clouds of metallic particles, creating zones of plasma that the enemy ships had to physically navigate around. These zones were then seeded with kinetic mines, simple metal spheres that hung in space, waiting. "They're adapting," Starweaver warned, detecting changes in their phase frequency. "Good," Shadowmend replied. "Initiate Operation Slingshot." This was the riskiest part of the plan. Select Alliance ships deliberately powered down their energy weapons, making themselves appear vulnerable. The quantum null ships, their tactical algorithms still based on energy combat, took the bait. They phased through the debris fields, through the plasma clouds, moving to engage what they saw as easy targets. That's when the powered-down ships revealed their secret. Massive electromagnetic launchers that used no exotic energy, just simple magnetic acceleration to hurl specially designed projectiles at near-relativistic speeds. The results were devastating. Quantum null ships, their phase technology optimized to deal with energy weapons, found themselves torn apart by what amounted to very fast rocks. "They're retreating," the sensor officer announced. "Quantum signatures diminishing. They're pulling back through the void gate." But Shadowmend wasn't finished. Launch Operation Doorstop. From the rear of the Alliance fleet, a special ship moved forward. It carried just one weapon, an enormous mass of metallic spheres, all connected by simple carbon fiber cables. As the last enemy ships fled through the void gate, this bizarre constellation was launched after them. "The principles of Ebola," Starweaver explained to the confused Alliance commanders. "Entangle them in something physical that they can't phase through, then let momentum do the rest." The strategy worked perfectly. The quantum null ships, their phase technology useless against the simple physical entanglement, were drawn into a chaotic mass. The void gate, its structure stressed by the awkward passage, began to collapse. "All ships, maximum thrust," Shadowmend ordered. "Let's not stick around to see what comes through next." As the combined fleet retreated to safe distance, the void gate imploded, taking the remains of the quantum null fleet with it. In the command center, humans and aliens alike watched in stunned silence. Finally, Warsage Cathor spoke. "With simple ropes and stones," he said wonderingly, "you have defeated an enemy our most advanced weapons couldn't touch." "Not stones," Starweaver corrected. "Ideas. Old ones, yes, but sometimes the old ways still work. We just needed to remember them." The great hall of the Alliance sparkled with crystalline light as High Council member Vexthor stood before the assembled representatives of 1,000 worlds. The victory celebration had lasted 3 days, but now came the harder part, learning from their near defeat. "Let the record show," Vexthor's harmonious voice resonated through the chamber, "that as of this day, the Alliance formally adopts the hybrid warfare doctrine. No longer will we rely solely on energy-based weapons and defenses. We must embrace a more diverse approach to warfare." Science Director NX Farah, whose tentacles had once writhed in disgust at the thought of primitive weapons, now faced the assembly with new humility. "Our latest analysis confirms what our human allies have long understood. True advancement doesn't mean abandoning the past. It means building upon it. The quantum null fleet's defeat proves that elegance can be found in simplicity." In the front row, General Frost sat quietly, her cybernetic eye recording everything for Earth's archives. Beside her, Warsage Cathor's crystalline form pulsed with thoughtful energy. "I've been studying your species' military history," Cathor said softly. "Something you call martial arts particularly caught my attention. The way you preserved ancient combat techniques even after developing powered armor and energy weapons. At first, I thought it mere sentiment," Frost smiled. "And now? Now I understand that it was wisdom. Each generation adding to the knowledge of the past rather than replacing it. Tell me, General, what other obsolete technologies has humanity kept in reserve?" "That," Frost replied with a familiar twinkle in her organic eye, "would be classified." The assembly continued as Alliance worlds presented their plans for implementing the new doctrine. Some spoke of reviving long-abandoned manufacturing techniques. Others proposed research into primitive technologies, that could be enhanced with modern materials and methods. All understood now that progress didn't always mean complexity. Commander Stormweaver, newly promoted for her role in predicting the crisis, took the podium. The Quantum Null Fleet taught us a valuable lesson. They believed their advanced technology made them invincible. They forgot that sometimes the simplest solution is the most elegant, a lesson we nearly forgot ourselves. As the session concluded, Frost found herself in the Alliance's newly established Museum of Military History. The exhibits now featured everything from ancient Earth spears to modern hybrid weapons. A group of alien children gathered around a display of a simple lever, marveling at its elegant functionality. "It's ironic," said a voice behind her. Science Director Enexthera glided forward, tentacles now moving with respectful grace. "We thought ourselves so advanced, yet we had become primitive in our thinking, locked into a single path of advancement, blind to alternatives." Frost nodded. "The most dangerous trap in warfare isn't technological inferiority, it's assumed superiority. Every time humanity forgot that lesson, we had to learn it again the hard way." "And now?" Enexthera asked. "What other wisdom does humanity hold in reserve?" Frost's smile widened. "Let's just say Project Ancestral Echo has many phases. After all, you never know when you might need to remember how to start a fire without an energy cell, or build a shelter without molecular assemblers." As if to punctuate her point, the lights in the museum flickered briefly. The alien visitors looked around in confusion, but the human staff simply reached into their pockets and pulled out what appeared to be primitive chemical illumination devices. "You see," Frost said, holding up her own simple light stick, "sometimes the old ways still work, and sometimes they work better than anything else." The Alliance had learned its lesson. In the centuries that followed, they would face other threats, other challenges. But they never again made the mistake of thinking that advancement only moved in one direction. In every Alliance ship, alongside the energy weapons and quantum drives, you would now find simple projectile weapons, mechanical backup systems, and crew members trained in what they called the old ways, just in case.